Cue that beat.
This is what happens. You guys just hear something Eagles, and then it's like a dog. You see a squirrel, it's just,
I would say 75% of all NFL quarterbacks can be dialed down to different flavors of Kirk Cousins. They're all just Kirk Cousins. All of them.
So there's conditions.
No, I absolutely understand do not draft list. If someone's on my do not draft list, I'm not drafting him.
Hey guys, welcome into the Mind the Gap podcast. Aaron Palsgrove, Ryan Wright, Tyler Hill. We're back. It's been I think about a week and a half since we recorded last. You saw our big board top 50 was our most recent posting. With a whole bunch of technical issues, we couldn't record another one in that time, but we're glad to be back. Free agency has been absolutely wild. So today we are going to go over the good, the bad, and the ugly of free agency. We'll explain the categories as we go to them. Two of them fairly straightforward. We're just going to break down free agency, everything that happened, trades, signings, releases, extensions. I think that's all for acquisition categories. And then pre-show, we each have a bunch of these, and then we realized that none of the three of us had put T. Higgins and Jamar Chase in any of those categories because the move is just, it's one that's worth its own segment, right? So T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, now the highest paid wide receiver and the highest paid wide receiver 2 in the NFL, each with 4 years, I think 160 and 116 million for the two of them. That's a ton of money for two receivers when you don't have a defense to pay.
And I'm glad the Eagles signed A.J. Brown and Smitty and locked him up long before this deal.
I can't believe that the first point we make on the T. Higgins Jamar Chase signing is talking about the Eagles.
It's so
guys,
typical.
This has got to stop. This has got to stop.
All right, hold on. We'll make a jar. Okay, let's start a jar, and every time one of us completely brings up the Eagles,
off topic.
No,
brings up the Eagles.
Off topicness makes good content.
We're gonna have an Eagles jar. Yeah,
we're having an Eagles jar. There's $1 in the Eagles jar for Ryan, and then I'll have an Eagles jar, and then Tyler doesn't have a jar unless we want to make it like the Florida Gators.
The money goes to me.
No, we're gonna invest in
Florida Gators for Tyler.
Yeah, we'll
Gators
do that.
or the Buccaneers.
All right, Ryan, you have $1, and the Buccaneers is fair. He doesn't bring that up enough, but I think he's wearing a Gators hoodie on the pod.
I was gonna say,
I mean, you got to rep.
Who I have in the March Madness bracket.
No, when we hit like $22,
out of your bus.
I do have them winning my bracket as well.
Let's go.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. We'll get to it. No, every time one of us brings up the Eagles completely unprovoked, we will throw $1 in there, and by the end of the time, we'll all chip in for like a month of Riverside or something.
Yeah, no, I like that.
That. Let's do it. So, Ryan, that's $1 in the Eagles jar. But you are factually correct. The Smitty and AJ deals do look really good compared to the money that the Bengals just shelled out to these guys.
Yeah, they had to do it, though. I mean, they backed themselves into a corner. The only conceivable way they could have gotten out of signing both these guys is if they traded maybe not even last year, 2 years ago, just to get ahead of it. But, guys, you want to re-sign your good players. And I get the argument that these are not guys in the trenches. You do need guys in the trenches, obviously, to win in the NFL and build through them. But you also need good players. And so when you draft good players and they end up being top 10, and then in Jamar Chase's case, probably the best receiver in the NFL at this point, you pay them. Mm-hmm. You got to keep them. And then the other thing that I wanted to talk about is there is more than one way to skin a cat. And we're going to talk about the Eagles here a little bit, but this is more in general. When a team wins a Super Bowl, a lot of times teams jump all over it and say, we have to build that exact way. And you don't. Now, you generally need to have good trenches, again, like I said, and that's something the Eagles did well. But that's not new. That's been in the NFL for the entirety of the league.
And to your point, you can look at some of the teams where I'm going to save like shouting people out until later on when we actually talk about these decisions. But there's a specific team, Tyler, that we talked about before this, that is trying to replicate what the Eagles did. It's Washington, right? It's the Commanders. The Commanders are trying to build in the trenches and bring in big bodies, especially on the offensive line, to try and replicate what the Eagles did because they won, and they won handedly. And they looked like they had the best 1 through 53 that we've seen in the decade or so, right? So teams are going to try and recreate that, and that's a theme that we're seeing this year is overpaying on offensive linemen. Bringing back Ronnie Staley, paying a ton of money if you're the Bears and Ben Johnson to protect Caleb Williams. There is a bunch of money shelled out to offensive linemen to try and replicate what the Eagles did. And what the Bengals did it was, instead of focusing on the trenches and defense like they could have, they focused on making Jamar happy by bringing him back T and paying Jamar the money he deserved. They focused on making Joe Burrow happy who very publicly said, these are my two guys. I want them back on my team no matter what. And he put ownership, he's put them in front of the coals and said, pay up. And then you're bringing back T. Higgins and giving him the money that he deserved. So you are paying them what they earned and keeping the locker room happy. The downside is it might not be the most prudent football decision. Like that's what it is. It's a good move when it comes to locker room presence, helping your team, and like paying money to good players. But it might not have been the positions that you needed to pay that money to. It sucks because I feel like there's no right answer to this question.
The right answer will show itself if they get a Super Bowl out of it or not, but it's looking like it won't. I feel like they're putting money in all the wrong places. Personally, I probably would have let T. Higgins go and drafted a wide receiver this year again.
But
see, that's so risky though. I hate to be the guy now that's coming back to the Eagles again. But if you want a case for this, the Titans traded away AJ Brown and they drafted Treylon Burks, and Treylon Burks is their wide receiver 4.
And the Bengals just last year drafted Jermaine Burton, who I would say is now a negative draft pick. They are worse off having drafted him than they were having drafted.
I don't even know if he'll be on the roster next year.
No, because he won't. No way. He won't because there was no talent and there was no will. They straight up said, you're going to be our wide receiver 1 with T and Jamar out. And he said no, and he didn't show up. There's an attitude issue with Burton that was made very public and very clear where he does not want to compete. And you need competitors. And so that was not just a waste of a pick, but a negative pick. And the Bengals can't draft. Look at the guys they've drafted on defense. How many of their guys that they drafted in the last 5 years have panned out? Maybe one, Cam Taylor-Britt. That's about it.
I would say for me, it was Cam Taylor-Britt and it was Jordan Battle when I was going through it. And Battle is more like a slightly above average starter, but he's not a needle mover at all.
They drafted Joe and Jamar, but those two were going to succeed no matter where they went, and everyone knew it. They can't develop.
Yeah, and this is where, when we were talking about them being painted into a corner a little bit, this is not the ideal way that I would like to team build, but when you missed on all of those and then you get this far into it, what were you going to do with that T. Higgins money? Like, let's say, for instance, they just did trade him to the Patriots for a second, which was kind of the rumor of what he would go for. So now you have, 35 million, give or take, or 30 million. That's going to be his cap hit. Like, who were you getting in free agency
three
that was going to make you so much better?
Like 2 or 3 defensive players, and they're all going to be below average because that's
like if you go
market.
Yeah, if you go through it, for instance, these are just ones that I have down in my research, but Milton Williams is about $16 million a year, so it would be like Milton Williams and DJ Reed, and that's like the ideal if you'd gotten those two guys, and I think I probably would just rather have T. Higgins. And so is this, again, the ideal way you would like to team build where you have so much money tied up in 2 receivers? Personally, I don't think so.
Especially if one gets hurt.
Yeah,
exactly.
Injury prone, yeah.
But they didn't really have a better option at this point. And I don't think it doesn't completely tie them up and hold them back because football, this position is like anything. Because you have good receivers, it makes it easier on your O-line, can make it easier on your running back. You can get away with things and fudge the numbers. You don't have to be as good on defense, right? So you maybe don't have to put as much in the cap. But all that being said, still not the ideal way to do it, and still should have signed them both probably 2 years ago.
Yeah. I think you should have just signed them both. You should have extended them. They were just dragging their feet, and that bit them in the butt. And there was the only reason to drag your feet there was to raise the price, and they could have just sent him to the Patriots, who we know that they wanted a receiver, and have yet to get one this draft, or this free agency cycle, by the way. Like, they were rumored for Ayuk, Higgins, Metcalf, none of the 3 of them. So I'm curious to see what the Pats do in the draft, because now they have...
Ayuk would have cost too much. He's not worth $30 million.
I mean, you could say the same about Higgins and Metcalf.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, but the Pats wanted to pair someone with May, and I think there was a report that came out. I don't want to misquote this, but I'm going to do my best to not. The report said that the Pats are, quote, extremely aware, quote, of the downsides of pairing a... for lack of a better word, diva wide receiver who demands the ball with Drake May, and that could stunt his growth. So I'm curious to see what they do in the draft and with Ayuk still on the Niners, if that is ever a thing that comes to be. Is there anything else we got to hit before we get into the good, the bad, and the ugly? No? Excellent. Tyler, do you want to talk about Florida and how they're the March Madness favorite?
No, we'll get to that at some point. Go Gators. Natty or bust. This year's the year.
It's an out of your bus for everyone, but
it is.
But especially for us, because we got a bunch of people graduating this year. So,
dude, I don't know about you, but I got a feeling Liberty, 12 seed, right there against the Oregon Ducks.
no.
Sneaky.
I took Oregon.
So I think it's at least a conversation. To Liberty's credit, they've had a good year.
No, it's not. Aaron, they didn't play a single Power 5 school. Relax.
They're never going to play a Power 5 school. That's just not the way. No one schedules Liberty for Power 5 anymore.
Yeah, and that's why I'm never going to take them over Oregon.
Listen, Liberty shoots 39% from three. If they can get a 50% 3-point shooting game, they can stay in it. And then it could get interesting.
I do think that
they're also still really small, though. We have 5'9" guards for some reason. Again,
right. That's a McKay thing.
Recruiting issue, but
it is.
Yeah.
But no one wants to go because they're in CUSA now, and that was a mistake to join. But I do think it's at least a conversation. It's not just a blanket pick the upper seed like there is with like Wofford and some of these other teams. Liberty's a conversation. To their credit,
Wofford catching strays.
They were a team. I saw this efficiency landscape chart, and they were in the bottom left-hand corner, and I just thought it was hilarious, and so they caught a stray. All right, the good. I'm going to lead us off because I know that this is going to be a big conversation. Let's just talk Seahawks for a second. The Seattle Seahawks during this free agency cycle have been one of the most active teams with completely blowing up their team that I've ever seen. Tyler Lockett was released. DK Metcalf traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Geno Smith traded for a third rounder, 92nd overall, to the Las Vegas Raiders. And it just is absolutely insane. JSN is their wide receiver 1. Cooper Kupp is now their wide receiver 2. Jake Bobo, wide receiver 3. Quietly a very good receiver room. Actually, I kind of love that combo. But this is one of the strangest off seasons, strangest 2-week spans for a team. Oh, and by the way, Sam Darnold is on this team now. I'm going to get to him later. I think he's in one of my other categories. But basically, for the good, I have Geno Smith going to the Las Vegas Raiders. And this is a good transaction for the Raiders. Not for the Seahawks, because I don't get it. But for the Raiders, I love it. Because
you're stealing mine.
Oh, well, we just agree. That's okay. We're allowed to agree. No, it's Ryan, basically it's just that there's a bridge quarterback now, right? They're not forced to take a rookie. You're giving Pete Carroll time to develop a culture, to develop a team, and then you can just drop a rookie into it because you really have a talented, good character, quality character person in Geno Smith now in the building.
Well, Max Crosby doesn't like the term bridge quarterback. He wants to compete now. And personally, I think if they hit on some draft picks, they could be a wild card team. I'm not saying they're going to go on a deep playoff run or even a dark horse. They could be a wild card team if they hit on draft picks. Their O-line needs some work. D-line also could use a little bit more work on the inside next to Christian Wilkins and Adam Butler. But again, that secondary is the reason they suck. And their linebackers. They lost both their linebackers, Spillane and Diablo, to free agency.
And lost Morrig in the secondary, too.
Yeah, so they are grasping at straws here. But Geno to the Raiders is a good pick. I don't think I'm giving him an extension right now by any means. I kind of want to see how he works.
I think he's eligible for a midseason if he plays well. You got to see
he could, absolutely, but not right now.
No,
but
I agree. My midseason.
My point to this was it really does add a ripple effect to the draft.
Mm-hmm.
We see it at the very beginning, and it just changes the entire draft. If the Raiders don't take a quarterback, someone else trades up, someone else trades down. There are so many things that could happen, especially if Pete Carroll wants to get Ashton Genty, a Marshawn Lynch-esque caliber player. So again, there's so many variables to this that even after free agency, our mock draft 3.0 will not look even remotely the same.
No, I agree. And I think that is a credit to the Raiders offseason. They have given Tom Brady complete and total control, right? Well, maybe not complete and total, but he has a large, hefty say in their front office decisions. They brought in Pete Carroll, who is a renowned and well-known character guy. He is a player's coach who knows what he's doing, knows how to run a team, Super Bowl champion. Pete Carroll is like that guy, and they brought him in to establish a culture. And aside him, they brought in Chip Kelly, who, despite all his flaws in the last time he was in the league, is a national champion with Ohio State, who had just had one of the most explosive offensive seasons we've seen under his tutelage, and now he's going to coach alongside Carroll. And on top of that, Kelly knows the guys in this class. He's been coaching at Ohio State for what, the last like 10 years or something like crazy? Or he's been in college football for the last 10 years. He knows this landscape. He knows this draft class. So with Carroll, who got a season off, and Kelly, this is going to be a very intriguing draft class. And I think we're going to have to give them the benefit of the doubt with whoever they pick. Like, oh, they picked this guy? Well, I guess it might work out. Because Kelly was right there. He was in the trenches at Ohio State. And so I'm impressed with what they've done.
Yeah, good move in a vacuum. Third round pick, don't think is crazy. Like Ryan said, I think the one thing is we'll see what the extension is. It's reported he wants about 45 to 50 million. That is a steep price to pay for Geno Smith. But if they can maybe land more in that 40 range or 35, kind of that Baker Darnold-ish range, I think that's a good range for him, especially at age 34. And then I was thinking, the one thing I was thinking about is, does this necessarily take them out of the quarterback race? Because this is an older guy, but I think, Ryan, you hit on it really well. They do have just so many other holes, and Carroll wants to compete as soon as possible with being 72 years old. So I think instead of trying to get a guy and develop him and not wasting that pick, but
Yeah,
this
they
pick
still
isn't going
got
to help you
Aiden
right
O'Connell.
now.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not saying he's an amazing quarterback or anything. I'm saying it's serviceable. It'll get you to where you need to be. And this year, they don't need to go to the Super Bowl. It's a rebuilding team.
yeah, so that's where they won't try and develop a guy for 2 years behind Geno, I don't think, because they just have so many needs, and it's the sixth pick. That is a very quality pick. So overall, saw this as a good move for the Raiders.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they're going to take a quarterback because that doesn't feel like Carroll's way of functioning. There's a word that I'm...
No, there's some system familiarity there with Geno going to the Raiders and teaming up with Pete Carroll. So I think their quarterback is Geno Smith, and I don't think there will be any other narrative this season beyond that. It's just going to be interesting to see. I mean, Pete Carroll has been kind of stingy in the past on who he drafts and who he doesn't draft based off position. So it's going to be interesting to see that come out again towards the draft and be like, oh, okay, he loves corners. Is he going to take a corner? Oh, he loves D lineman. Is he going to take a D lineman? So it's going to be really interesting to see what that first round draft pick, not first overall, to see what they do, because that's going to be their foundation for the next few years.
Yeah, I agree. But Carroll did not draft a quarterback in Seattle for a while until he felt like he built a culture. And you don't bring in Geno, who is still young enough to compete, young enough to perform, and on a there's probably going to be an extension relatively quickly, probably mid-season or so. You don't bring him in for a third unless you are like, yeah, this guy's going to be a quarterback for at least the next 2 years.
It's a late third too, so I'm not insanely worried about it by any means.
So that is the good for myself. One of them. Ryan, that's one of yours as well, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, Tyler, give me something good. What happened?
First one, I'm going to go Milton Williams, defensive tackle, signing with the New England Patriots. The deal is 4 years, $104 million. 63 of that guaranteed, comes out to about $15.75 million per year. And people are saying this is an overpay.
It's not.
And sure.
Eagles get a comp pick.
There you go. Add $1 to the jar. No, I'm kidding. That one was related enough.
No, add $1 to the jar.
But I'm like, even if I just want to concede, okay, sure, that maybe it's an overpay. Dude, the team still has $90 million in cap space according over the cap. So
you got to pay somebody.
Right. Like, they just need talent. And so I don't know for people that are going, oh, this is an overpay. Okay, well, who would you have rather had them go get? There wasn't anybody. You get
T.
a good
Higgins.
player. Well, unfortunately, you weren't going to be able to get him. So you get a good player to pair with Christian Barmore if he recovers from his blood clot stuff. They just need good players so bad. So I'm not going to fault them for going and getting a good player, even if it was maybe a little richer than you would like. The contract also with the 4 years lines up with May's rookie deal perfectly. That's even better. When we get to draft implications here, I still think they could do whatever. They've been mocked a lot. I've seen the Mason Graham. So I think this frees them up to where I still wouldn't mind if they took Mason Graham at 4, but they can go Travis Hunter. They can go best O-lineman available. And again, still have that flexibility if they want Graham or an edge. So
Or
I
trade back and take a receiver because they desperately need a receiver. And I think the way May plays a security blanket like Tet McMillan or like even a Tyler Warren could really help them out.
well, if I'm taking Travis Hunter as the Patriots, I'm playing him a receiver.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
So that's I guess where I'm going is if you stick in for Travis Hunter, play him at receiver, I think that's fine. And I've just in general with Hunter, I started out being like he is a corner and will play some receiver. I've come around to depending on which team drafts him, I think depends on what his position is. So Patriots, wide receiver. They already got Christian Gonzalez, signed Carlton Davis, stuff like that. But Giants, maybe corner because they got Neighbors and they've had trouble. Deontay Banks hasn't played as well. So just a couple examples there on how flexible I think he can be. But overall, really like this Milton Williams signing, even if just on its face, it's quote unquote an overpay.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a few red flags when it comes to this is one of my goods as well, by the way. So I'm in line with you, lockstep. I think that there's a few red flags when it comes to giving this guy a contract. One is he didn't play, I think it was like 50% of the snaps for the Eagles. And so giving him a starting DT salary implies a starting DT workload. So I'm curious, is he going to be able to sustain himself playing more snaps than I think he may be used to, like he did in Philadelphia? Because the Eagles had a four-man interior rotation with Carter, Davis, Williams, Ojimo, right? So now with pulling him out of that and putting him into like maybe a 2 or a 3-man rotation, is he going to be able to sustain himself as a pass rusher and a run stopper? That's my biggest question, is long-term longevity over the course of this first season. And I would wager that we around weeks 8 to 11, we see him and his production start to decline more so than we did this season with the Eagles, just because of the workload. That said, he's a young player, talented pass rusher, fearsome, has a relentless motor. I think he's going to do really, really well in New England, and they better take care of my boy because I grew to love him this season. Ryan, you want to give me a good?
Well, I think this might be one neither of you have. Danny Dimes to the Colts.
I have it. I just don't have it in good.
Okay. I like it personally because I feel like Anthony Richardson really needs to be like pushed out of his comfort zone. This does exactly that. I personally did not love Anthony Richardson as a prospect. Only Tyler, what did he start? Like 13 games?
He started 13 games, over his career at Florida.
Absurd.
And he only started playing quarterback in high school, I believe, his junior year. So he also didn't have a ton of starts in high school.
So already a risky pick. Hasn't really produced a ton. And we haven't even seen a whole lot of flashes of talent either, in my subtle opinion.
I mean, I remember first quarter where he put up 19 fantasy points, and then he got hurt immediately after.
Yeah. So you have the injury concern. You are trying to fill other holes on the roster, but Danny Dimes to the Colts for $14 million, not a bad signing. In my opinion, that's actually great because if he does get hurt again and you're really trying to like push the bubble on the playoffs this year, Daniel Jones really could do that if the roster's in good shape.
I think I disagree on that part. I had this under ugly because it makes me feel weird and gross, and so I just didn't know what to do with it, so it fell in ugly, and I wanted to talk about it. There's a few elements of this that make it one of the more intriguing transactions. One, Anthony Richardson is immature. The team said so, and they called him out on it. I think it was DeForest Buckner who said, I am in this because of you. You better get your head out of your butt.
To the point they had to start Flacco.
Right, to the point where he got benched for Joe Flacco, and that created a lot of conversations. And we didn't know what to do with it. So this lights a fire under his butt and gives him competition. That said, Daniel Jones there's a zone, right? This zone right here is good enough where the fans are going to call for him to start. This zone down here is bad enough where the fans aren't going to call for him to start when Anthony Richardson is playing bad. Right here, that's where Daniel Jones is, right? Meeting in the middle, he is not good enough for the fans to clamor, but not bad enough to be unproductive when he starts. He is the perfect medium. This is a fantastic signing by the Colts. I just don't know how I feel about it because if Anthony Richardson completely flops like he might, the Colts are down. The Colts are up a creek with Daniel Jones. He's not going to be a superstar quarterback for them. This is entirely
It's 1 year.
It's also 14.
And we'll probably know what they're doing with Anthony Richardson by the end of this year.
It's a $14 million smack in the face to Anthony Richardson, and I would do that for free.
He needs it.
You're not wrong. Anthony Richardson trying to learn maturity from Jim Irsay. That's all that needs to be said, really. Tyler, do you have another good for me?
I do. Second good for me is going to be Dan Moore, signed by the Tennessee Titans, offensive tackle coming from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I know, because this is completely against consensus here of the media, but you'll need to hear me out. So Dan Moore, 4 years, $82 million, 50 of that guaranteed. I also kind of paired this with the Kevin Zeitler signing for 1 year, $9 million. And you'll see why when I go through the whole spiel. So people are mad at it. You can tell by your reactions. I will come forward. I'm not crunching Steelers O-line tape in my spare time. So what I went to see about this. Yeah, well, listen, I'm too busy crunching college tape. But guys that I trust and do crunch the tape, like Nate Tice, say that he is a slightly above average guy. So think C+, B-. And then just by PFF, he was the 49th graded pass blocker out of 83 eligible tackles. So that puts him pretty much in line with that about average to slightly above average. And that's with a team taking a ton of deep shots in Pittsburgh. They didn't help their O-line at all because, man, we are just throwing it up to somebody down there. That was their entire offense. Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, but even more than his individual skill, what does this do for the Titans? They don't have to play Nicholas Petit-Frere there, who, if you have watched the Titans, you don't even have to be crunching Titans O-line tape. He was unplayable. And so right now you're going from an F in a spot on the O-line to a C+ or B-. That is a huge, huge upgrade. Well, you're shaking your head no.
This is great. I feel like we're in prospect court right now. Ryan?
D, but below average, I wouldn't even like to call him a starter. Dude straight up just whiffs on blocks.
You saw the one Twitter clip. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Twitter clip,
it was a 6-second Twitter clip that was posted.
It was the Steelers, and I don't even think correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, but I genuinely don't think Dan Moore could get $12 million from any other team. I think the Titans.
You almost said the green team there. That's almost.
I think the Titans genuinely overpaid here because they're like, we have a position of need, we have money. Just because you have money doesn't mean you throw it away, and that's what I view it as here. I don't think he's an above average tackle. I think he's a below average, possibly even a bench switch. Like, I don't think Dan Moore is all that.
Maybe, but at least PFF grading and Nate Tice would disagree with you. So again,
don't get me wrong. I love that they're bolstering the position because it leads us to believe that they might be going after a quarterback in the draft.
This is the back half. This is the back half of my point. So you're going from an F to a C+ or a B-. You also get to kick J.C. Latham from left tackle to right tackle. He played right tackle in college.
His original position. Career.
Yep. This is where he is way more comfortable. He already played fine at left tackle, so I think he can take a jump from fine to above average at right tackle. They have the 9th most effective cap space left with $37 million. So that's another, like, again, you got to spend money. They cut Harold Landry, a bunch of other moves where they don't have a ton of cap space. The biggest reason I like this, though, I think
they cut Harold Landry, or did they just not re-sign him? Because he signed with the Patriots for like $3 or $45 million.
Yeah, they released Landry.
Okay.
Another good signing for the Patriots, just spending money where they can. I love it.
Yeah. So the biggest reason I like this, though, and paired it with the Zeitler signing, is that right now they have filled out their offensive line outside of if they want to do something at center. And I think it's because they're taking Cam Ward at number 1. And we talk about all the time, and just draft people in general talk about, you have to bring your rookie QB into a good situation. You can't throw him to the wolves. You need to sit him, or you need to have a good situation around him.
Unless you have a generational guy, yeah.
we can't say that and then get mad at a team that is trying to give their rookie QB, again, in the scenario where they take Cam Ward, a good situation and fill out the O-line for him. So that's I guess my biggest thing is, hey, again, this is similar to the Milton Williams thing. Is it maybe a little bit of an overpay? Yeah, that's free agency. But again, you're going from an F to a C+, and it's going to help Latham out too. You are helping out your rookie quarterback. And now in the draft, the effect that this will have is they can do whatever they want with the 35th pick. If they took a quarterback with the first pick, I thought, hey, you need to go offensive line with that second, again, to get Petit Ferrer out of there and not play him. Now they can get a weapon. They can go interior O-line to fill out that last center spot. Secondary, edge, they need pass rush. They were one of the worst pass defenses last year. They can go best player available at 35. So that compared with giving Cam Ward a better situation in the event that they do take him, which is what it looks like right now. And then just overall the team improvement, you get him with Bill Callahan, one of the most respected offensive line coaches ever. I actually do think that this is a good signing.
I don't think it's a bad signing. I just didn't think it was. It was the butt of every joke on Twitter, but I do think that I don't know if it was fully noteworthy enough for me to put in my list. I just think it was a slightly overpay, and it's the right idea, wrong player in my opinion. I have one more good, and Tyler, this is up your alley. This is Chris Godwin re-signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 3 years, $66 million, $22 million a year for. I got to be honest, one of my favorite receivers in the league. This is just the Bucs bringing in a really talented player and keeping him in-house for a team-friendly contract for the next 3 years, probably nearly the end of his career. I love it. I think that they are very clearly stating we are going to compete for the NFC South and probably win it with how they looked this year, bringing back Godwin to pair with Baker Mayfield, and they did it at a fraction of what the wide receiver 2 price this year is. It's like T. Higgins, $116 million, right? For 4 years. Godwin, 3 years, 66. An outlandishly lower number compared to what the wide receiver 2 market is. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. This is just a fantastic signing, and I love it. It's just going to go under the radar because it's so good.
Yeah, I mean, middle of last year, Chris Godwin had the best stats of any receiver in the league. And then obviously he has the ankle injury, but it seems like this is not something, it's not a, Achilles tear, ACL, where it's going to really hamper you as your career goes on. It's something you just recover from and come back. Like you said, Aaron, great price, really, really has great chemistry with Baker Mayfield. You're wanting to keep that offense together as long as possible. And you're getting off of him. I believe he'll be 32 at the end of the deal. I think that's a great age to move off of Chris Godwin. So overall, really, as a Bucs fan, and even just as an analyst, like this signing a ton.
That's the.
I think that's his Super Bowl window too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you're getting much more after that.
Right.
That's the ring chasing age. You hit 32 and you start going around to like probably the Ravens, like D-Hop. Ryan, I think both of you have one more good left. Ryan, what's yours?
I actually have Najee Harris to the Chargers, and I like this for a variety of reasons. One, J.K. Dobbins just didn't do it. Neither did Gus Edwards.
Wait,
J.K. Dobbins was
great.
Serviceable. Again,
He was
I'm
great
throwing that
last
term
year.
out there. Dude was middle of the pack in almost every single category.
Which for him is overperforming after years of being on injured reserve and coming back.
Yeah, I get it, but he wasn't.
Dobbins was fantastic. Do not undersell my Prince.
All right.
Carried me to the championship.
I don't know.
In what? Yeah, in what league?
He was like pretty average, I would say, which is good because they signed him for $2 million, so great
Right,
value.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like there was a conversation for most improved, or not most improved comeback player of the year. I do think he had a very good season that shouldn't go marginalized like you're discussing here. Just
I said
complete
average. I said average. Anyways, Najee Harris to the Chargers.
He was
I
116th
like
in the league
personally
in yards per carry.
because.
Sorry to
all right,
cut you
shut
off,
up.
I think Pittsburgh O-line definitely did struggle with run blocking at times. I mean, again, Jalen Warren just had a completely different skill set. It was a scat back almost 95% of the time. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's utilized. I think in what I've seen, Harbaugh likes a hard-nosed running back, which makes me like, why didn't he like Gus Edwards as much? But that's not the point.
Oh, I'll tell you why. I know why you like Najee. Have you heard the story of why?
No.
Okay, Najee Harris in
Oh,
high
is
school.
this the recruitment trail?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. I've heard that one.
So for the people, Najee Harris in high school got offers. He was a 5-star running back, one of the best players in the country. I think he was like a top 5 overall, top 10 player
He was
in the country.
back in his class. Yeah.
Right. 5-star recruit, and he had offers from Alabama and Michigan. He had committed to Alabama. Michigan tried to pull him. Jim Harbaugh, like, I think he showed up multiple times at his high school trying to recruit Najee to like an insane level, like a weird level, trying to get him to Michigan. And at the end of it, I think it was at like an All-American Bowl or something like that, one of the camps, Alabama gave him a plane ticket and Michigan gave him a plane ticket. He could not decide. Harbaugh went out of his way to recruit this guy to a weird level, and he almost went to Michigan. The only reason he didn't is because I think Tua at the airport convinced him, hey, you should go to Alabama. And so he did. Harbaugh, multiple times this free agency cycle, has just brought in 5-star talent that he wanted to get to Michigan and couldn't. With Najee Harris and Mekhi Becton, Harbaugh is just going back to his high school exes that he couldn't marry at the time. That's all he's doing. So this might be a good signing. Becton might be a good signing. Mekhi Becton, what was it, 3 years, $66 million or something like that?
2 year, $20 million.
Okay, that's the Chris Godwin deal. 2 years, $20 million with the Chargers. Great deal, by the way. Love that for him and the Chargers. But it just feels like Harbaugh hasn't updated his board since these guys were 5-star recruits coming out of high school. It could work out. It could work out great, getting a really talented guard and a subpar running back. But I don't like the process, the procedure. You shouldn't. That's not how you run a team. You don't run a team by going back to their boards when they were high schoolers as 5-star recruits. They're different players now.
So why are we putting Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson together?
That's not a good move either.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you, but again, that brings up the point of putting the college players together.
No. I'm not saying that putting college players who played together is a bad thing. The Eagles are doing it successfully with Georgia, and the Bengals did it successfully with Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow.
LSU, yeah.
Right, LSU. You put players who play together, you put friends together, you're giving... It's like... This is a weird metaphor, but I'm going to say it anyways. Have you guys seen cheetahs in zoos, how they get anxious because they don't have that much room to run? And have you seen that cheetahs, the wildcat, are raised with a golden retriever puppy? From day one...
Dude needs to put $1 in the jar. I don't know what he's talking about.
Give me a second.
Here comes the out of left field comparison from
Give me a second. From day one...
He's going to get to the birds.
I'm not going to the Eagles.
Oh, he already mentioned it. Don't worry.
Hey, that was completely in context. Completely in context. Day one, the cheetah pup, like the cat, what's the name of the kitten? The cheetah kitten is paired with a golden retriever puppy, and they are bond. Golden retrievers, who are naturally social, naturally energetic, brings the cheetah out of its shell, and it's basically an emotional support animal from day one, an emotional support best friend.
You watch too many nature documentaries.
I'm chronically online. Okay, get with the program. We've known this.
Where are we going with this?
NFL teams have learned that if you bring best friends together, it can be successful. It works out because you're bringing people together who are raised together in college, and it works out at the pro level. You are giving a cheetah its emotional support golden retriever.
Aaron, that's what chemistry is.
Yeah, I know.
Well, just like, I don't know, man. Jamar Chase was the best receiver in his draft, and Joe Burrow was the number 1 pick, and like Jalen Carter was going to be the number 1 pick before he unfortunately had his legal trouble. And I think they were just good.
That's fair. Anyways, I do think that like signing players from the same college has a tendency to work. Like Jared versus Braden Fisk, right? It works. Bringing friends together is a successful and proven tactic. This is not doing that. This is not bringing a bunch of Michigan guys and forcing them to play together. This is Jim Harbaugh looking back at his board from 2018 when Najee was in high school and saying, who were the best guys then? I wonder if they're still the best guys now. Oh, well, I'll just give them money. That's what's happening. I don't like it. It's like instead of going on Tinder, you're looking through your high school yearbook.
Najee could be a bell cow. Behind a good O-line, Najee could be a bell cow.
I would agree. This will be, when he plays for the Chargers, the best O-line that he has played behind. And so we could see
I'm not
some
going to disagree
potential.
with that. Yeah, I agree. I don't like the process is what I'm saying.
Tyler, you got one more, but I have a honorable mention that I want to talk about after yours.
Okay, I can hit that then. So my last one, and this one will be pretty quick, is DJ Reed signing with the Detroit Lions. It's going to be 3 years, 48 million, 32 guaranteed. Like this a ton. They lost Carlton Davis, but Reed is both better than Davis, and he also gets injured way less, which if you followed the Lions all last year is a big thing for them. They need guys to stay healthy. Contract is up when he's 31. That's the perfect age to move off corners, is in that 30 to 32 range. That's when they fall off a cliff generally. Reed's just really good, man, especially in zone coverage. He played really good on the other side of Sauce Gardner. I like him and Terrion Arnold paired up, and then whatever else the Lions might do in the draft / free agency since it's not over. But he's a man cover guy. The Lions play a ton of that. I'm assuming they're going to stick with that at least general scheme. I know Aaron Glenn left, but you want some continuity there. There aren't a ton of draft implications with this one. I just want to put it here because I do really like this signing.
Have they announced their new DC yet?
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
Let me look that up. I don't think they have.
I'm not sure.
You're right that they're going to need some continuity. Lions, DC. Kelvin Shepard, new defense coordinator, he was the former linebackers coach, and their linebackers have gotten very good, so I don't blame them. Jack Campbell, fantastic. Malcolm Rodriguez was just a no-name who's still on the team.
Alex Angeloni, really good.
My bad, I forgot Thor.
Yeah.
Well, one linebacker coming out of college that also went to Georgia, Azeez Ojulari. And I'm bringing him up.
Is this $1 for the jar?
Because, no, this is not $1 for the jar. This is genuinely just a scenario of one man's trash is another man's treasure. It's so funny to me how the Eagles, as of recently, can turn really good prospects into superstars. And I think this could be a sneaky good signing. It was only a 1-year deal, and I don't think the number has come out on how much he's getting.
Really low. I have it right.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up. I have it right here in front of me. I did. It was right in front of me.
Anyways.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sneaky good signing. I don't think it's for a lot of money, but I think he gets a multi-year extension.
It's $4 million
after this year. Even better.
Yeah, it's 1 year, $4 million, and then the other edge rusher they brought in was Joshua Uche for $1.92 million. So they've spent under $6 million on 2 different edge rushers.
I think Ojulari, it's a multi-year deal with the Eagles after this season, and I'm really looking forward to it because A, I don't think Bryce Huff's going to play a ton, but B, another Georgia Bulldog. What else could you love?
If it ain't broke, I will say that to push back on the team that I love, this is one of those things where Howie Roseman, it's like the same argument could be made. Howie Roseman hasn't updated this board since the draft. Right? That's the same argument I made for Michigan. This is just the Eagles bringing in a bunch of trash. But the difference is...
It's the Giants.
It is the Giants. There is a difference there, but you could also say the same thing about Najee. It's the Steelers, right? This is the best offensive line he's played for. So, to Harbaugh's credit and to Roseman's credit, this could work out trash to treasure. Maybe I was a little too negative on the Najee thing.
Well, if we want to stay on the Giants, my first bad, great segue, Darius Slayton. You know how much Darius Slayton signed for, Aaron?
3 years, 36.
Do you know how much Saquon Barkley signed for?
3 years, 36.
Attaboy. And I rest my case.
That's all that needs to be said. The fact that the Giants gave the exact money that they would have given to Saquon Barkley to Darius Slayton 12 months later, complete and total failure organizational.
Disrespect, too.
Unreal disrespect. Tyler, we're not putting anything in any jar. This was, for a fact that this was one of the worst.
Deserved.
It was one of the worst signings you've ever seen.
Okay, it does narrative-wise suck for the Giants, but I mean, we just talked about Diami Brown got $10 million.
Yeah,
Darius Slayton, he is a way better player to get for $12 a year, and I don't know. We keep coming back to it. We talked about this before, but I mean, was Saquon going to win the Giants even one more game this year? Probably not. And so, I don't. It is funny narrative-wise because at just the running back market, the Eagles found an inefficiency. People were not going to pay really good running backs that much. The 49ers found it as well when they got McCaffrey. These guys do have value and you should pay them. But when you have a good team, and the Giants we can laugh at them for this, very much do not have a good team.
Running backs are the icing on the cake. They take the cake from good to great. If you don't have a structured cake and you put icing on it, it's just a lump. And that lump is not going to do anything even if you add icing to it.
That's what the 49ers look like right now, though.
They do look like a lump. Former 49er, Chase Young, signed a deal with the Saints for 3 years, $51 million. How somehow has...
How do they have money?
I don't know. I don't know how they have money. I don't know how this guy
They keep restructuring guys.
I don't know how this guy has gotten generational wealth while being mid for his entire career.
Well, hold on a second, because I'm going to pull up the stats, because I'm pretty sure that he was top 10, if not top 15 in pressures this past year. So bear with me as I click to PFF. But so Chase Young is actually 12th in the league last year in pressures, ended up with 6 sacks. And overall, I think you would at least have to say he had his best year as a pro.
I'm not going to disagree with having his best year as a pro, but that said, did he earn his 3 years, $51 million from an organization that should not be spending any money anywhere at any time? No, right? Like, he has been pretty okay.
Saints will never die, dude. They'll never die.
I think the only situation where the Saints could win is letting everyone go and get off the books and drafting again.
Yeah.
That's the only scenario I see as a possible solution to this. Otherwise, I guarantee you in 2 years, they're going to restructure his contract.
Oh, yeah. That is the lock of the century, is the headline in 2 years from Adam Schefter being like, and they've pushed money back and used a void year on Chase Young's deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen so
They've
fast.
extended him one more year, but it restructured his deal so that they're saving money. It's unreal. And
They're just pushing it back further for another GM to worry about.
it's exactly what's happening. And I pity the fool who decides to take any of these jobs, a.k.a.
Kellen Moore.
Yeah.
We had an entire conversation about that, but whatever.
We did. The Saints
Tyler,
job is
what's one of your bad?
Just bad. The Saints bad. They need to just go 2-16.
Go away.
Man.
No, they
just
should go to
a different
go
city.
just cut everyone.
Go to freaking Munich and give New Orleans a team that they deserve. That's a great city that deserves a team better than the Saints. They have the Tigers, but they'll be whatever.
Yeah. The first bad that I have is going to be the 2 moves from the Washington Commanders cutting Jonathan Allen and then signing Javon Kinlaw. So Kinlaw gets 3 years, $45 million, 30 of that guaranteed. Allen gets 3 years, 51 with 31 guaranteed. So Allen a little more of the overall money, but the guarantees are almost exactly the same.
Why not just bring back continuity for an extra, what was it, $6 million?
That's what I'm saying, because Allen is just a better player. He's been better for longer. Kinlaw had one okay year last year with the Jets, did nothing on the 49ers. I don't know why that you're giving him this type of money when you had Jonathan Allen in your building. The only thing is age, but Allen's 3 years older, again, has a way more proven track record, and defensive tackles generally age pretty well. Like, they don't fall off a cliff like corners do at the age of 30. There's definitely something left in the tank for Jonathan Allen. Again, for 3 years, 31 guaranteed, that's not a bad contract at all. I also wanted to hit this because I don't know if any of us are going to have it, and I didn't want to go full in on it, but speaking of falling off cliffs, I think Debo's about to crater as a player, and I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that, because I'm not loving. We'll talk about the one move I do love from the Commanders.
Is it
overall,
the Tunsil move?
It's going to be the Tunsil move, but overall, I don't love what they did in this free agency.
So let's just have a whole Commanders discussion while we're here. Saying that I think Debo might crater would be an understatement, because I feel like he already has. He's started to fall off a cliff, and I think that his decline might be quietly buoyed by Jaden Daniels, and I think he might be a productive receiver for them this year. But I don't think he's going to be an All-Pro. I don't think he's going to be a Pro Bowler, much less an All-Pro. I think he's probably going to be a low-quality wide receiver too. That's what he's going to be this year. And he's going to be a tricky player. He's going to be one that teams have to think of. But he's not going to be the guy that you gave up as much as like the 49ers did when they gave him that massive contract. McLaurin's still their wide receiver 1. Jaden Daniels is still their biggest weapon with his legs. Debo's just going to exist, and he's just going to exist in a different uniform on a different team. It feels inconsequential.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I personally loved Kinlaw coming out of college as a prospect, but he just frankly did not translate well to the NFL. So it's really hard to see Allen go and Kinlaw come in for practically the same amount of money. I don't know if we can call that an upgrade. We harped the Commanders for upgrading their defense this offseason, and frankly, I really can't say that they did that.
Yeah, because that gets into the greater thing of I just don't get why you would do this to take a swing on Kinlaw being as good as Allen when you just can re-sign Allen for the window that you have with Jane Daniels' rookie contract. This is where I really wouldn't want to be taking any chances in that way. If I have a good player, I want to keep a good player, especially they're not in a weird cap situation at all. They have space. And so that just didn't make a ton of sense to me. And then again, as an addendum, I don't like the Debo move either. So just weird offseason. Fun fact, can you guess how many seasons Debo Samuel has had more than 900 reception yards? And that is out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. How many did he go over 900 yards?
4.
Ryan?
2 or 3.
It is 1 season in 2021.
Really? That was his big year. That was like the big breakout Debo Samuel.
Yep, he made All-Pro. He made a Pro Bowl, had a really good year. In the years since then, 632, only played in 13 games. 892, which was the closest, played in 15. And then this past year, 670, played in 15. And one of those he came in for and then had the sickness thing. It was weird, but not looking like a very productive player.
The Finers wouldn't let him sit. I feel like it's okay to take a swing on a player who could be washed and just get him into another team, right?
They sent him for a 5th, right? Or
right.
4th?
It was something along those lines.
5th.
But I understand taking a swing on somebody who might be washed and seeing if they could prove him wrong, right? That's a normal thing. Derrick Henry didn't have his best year in Tennessee, and then he went to the Ravens. He looked incredible. Like, that was a swing on a veteran player. People take swings on vets all the time, especially when they want to add veteran presence. But the Commanders have been doing it consistently, and they've been doing it badly. Marshawn Lattimore and Debo Samuel being the two that I'm like, are you sure? It just feels like as management, they are, I don't want to say they're failing Jaden Daniels, but these are moves that feel like they are miscalculations and missteps in what could be a completely rejuvenated franchise.
And we'll see, because they hit on Bobby Wagner, which I didn't like as a move.
Right.
They hit on Frankie Louvu.
Zach Ertz was another hit.
Exactly. So they have done this before, but part of me is just sitting there and going, how many times are you going to hit jackpot here on guys that are aging former really good players?
It feels like they just have played way too many spins on the slots, and they just need to walk away with their winnings being Wagner, Ertz, and Louvu, who was fantastic last year.
Very good.
Dante Fowler's gone.
What do you mean?
Dante Fowler sounds with Cowboys.
Yeah.
Right.
So they lose one of their starting edge rushers too.
Yeah. The Commanders have had a weird offseason. Speaking of weird off seasons, I want to talk about the Panthers. So the Panthers, I felt like were in a spot where they could rejuvenate, right? Bryce Young was on the incline. He was looking better. They had some receiver prospects looking half decent in Jalen Coker and Xavier Legette. Adam Thielen had a resurgence. Their defense played pretty okay. I feel like the team was getting better. They were on the mend. And then this offseason happened where I feel like I have a list of all of their moves that I think have been tracked so far. And I have 3 of them out of their 15 that I'm like, this is a good move. So I'm going to tell you the good moves that I think they did. They released Miles Sanders. Oh, well, whatever. He was a washed running back. They didn't need him. They released him. They extended J.C. Horn, 4 years, $100 million. Fantastic. One of the best corners in the league. They signed Rico Dowdle. 1 year, $3 million. I think he was underutilized and misutilized in Dallas. They're giving him a shot. We've seen the Panthers do more with less at running back anyways. But they also gave 2 years, $20 million to Pat Jones. Who's Pat Jones? You might ask. Well, I looked him up. He was a Panthers edge rusher. And in 2024, he was ranked 144th out of 211 edge rushers. And then he was 75th out of 211 edge rushers in pressures. Overall grade, 144th, pressures, 75th. That man is now making $20 million a year. Andy Dalton, re-signed Tommy Tremble, $8 million a year. Michael Jackson, a corner, making over $7 million a year. Bobby Brown III, making $7 million a year. The Panthers have spent, over the next 4 years, this offseason, over $285 million in cap. Some of that's not guaranteed. Some of that might be real. But $285.3 million of reported money maximum to 15 or I think 13 players. 14 players. That's a lot of money to a lot of guys who are not all that. For a team that wanted to make splashes, I feel like they missed on Williams early on when the Patriots outbid them. And after that, they weren't really able to recover.
Yeah, that's just abysmal.
Yeah, they tried to replace with Tershawn Wharton, who was the guy who was a defensive tackle for the Chiefs, had some decent pass rush juice. So
3 years, $54 million.
Yeah, kind of the Diet
that's
Milton Williams.
That's the Williams contract, though. That's what that is.
Exactly. Yeah, and so that was they're trying to replace. I love, like you said, the J.C. Horn extension. Trayvon Morig picked up as a safety. Really good pickup for them.
That's a good move.
And I think they're just going to try and really get after it in the draft because you're right. I think there are some solid signings here, but there is definitely nothing that is going to blow your socks off.
Yeah. So I just wanted to get on my soapbox about the Panthers because I feel like they were in a spot where a good offseason could put them in a very good direction, and this feels so far like a swing and a miss. And maybe they got a single or a double with the Horn and the Morig and I do like Rico Dowdle. I think he's going to be a sleeper in fantasy. I'm excited about that one. But there's a lot that I'm just like, why'd they do that? Why you don't have to spend you kind of have to spend money, but you don't have to spend money on bad players. You don't have to re-sign Andy Dalton to another 2-year extension. Like, stop it. You have a quarterback. You're fine. I don't know. I need someone else to take the floor before I keep talking about the Panthers.
I got you. This one is pretty much in the same vein of just this one will be quick because this isn't awful. But Joey Bosa, 1 year, $12.6 million to go to the Buffalo Bills. I just don't get it a ton. Like, I know you're trying to replace Von Miller. You released him. Joey Bosa has averaged about 9 games in the past 3 years that he's able to play. He just doesn't stay healthy. And I guess the one thing is I don't know what else they were going to do at edge because they extended Greg Rousseau, so they're really investing into him, and then Epinesa as well. But it just felt like a really weird move and just something that I looked at and I was like, I don't completely understand this.
Yeah, it's odd. Ryan, you got another bad? We probably should start rolling through these.
Yeah, so I originally was like, who is some like really bad offensive lineman signings? And I found 2. Will Fries got a lot more money than I thought he would, but that was just because it was a 5-year contract. So I wouldn't really like qualify that as terrible, but it's really head scratching because they threw out some pretty big contracts. And granted, they have a rookie QB on the roster now with no vet. So it's going to be interesting to see how they build around JJ McCarthy. But Aaron Banks to the Packers was also a little bit of a head scratcher. Again, still a great guard. But you have so many other issues. Like, why are we not dressing wide receiver? Personally, I don't know what the heck is happening in Green Bay. I don't know if it's the head coach, if it's the general manager. But one of my ugly storylines was Mecole Hardman just signed to the Packers. And that's really funny to me. And we'll get to that in a second. But I feel like anything but guard really could have been the answer. But they gave, I think it was like $77 million. Yeah, 4-year, $77 million deal. Aaron Banks to the Packers. I just can't justify giving that kind of money to Aaron Banks. Again, one of the great guards in the league. Still, it's under $20 million a year. I have other concerns for the Packers, and I would have spent that money elsewhere.
Oh, I feel like that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, who would have been kind of the, I guess, ideal, like, instead of Banks' money, giving it to somebody else?
See, I would have loved Byron Murphy to go to the Packers because I feel like the Jair Alexander thing is not going to end well. He's going to end up getting cut. I hope it happens before draft day so people know what to expect. But uh, I feel like the late season collapse was because of the wide receiver situation and because of the defense. It was kind of the Commanders' same problem was there was no one to throw to, and you have a terrible defense on the other end, so you never get the ball back. But I don't know, dude. That's just a superstitious thing in me, I guess, is like I genuinely don't know what is happening in Green Bay, and I feel like things are going to start going bad very fast if they don't get some new playmakers. Because, I mean, think about it. That wide receiver room, we can even go back to the ugly now and this headline of Josh Jacobs thinks that they need a wide receiver one. Okay, so let's start putting them on our fingers. Romeo Dobbs, Wicks, Christian Watson. Who am I missing?
Yeah,
Jaden Reed, and now McCole Hardman. All arguably wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3s. I don't see a clear-cut one in there still.
I think there might be one or two receivers you're missing there, but yeah, I think that's the biggest issue is Jaden Reed could be a wide receiver 2 on a few rosters, but he is not being used. Same could be said for Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. They'd be very good wide receiver 2s on a bunch of other teams. I can think of a bunch of other teams that could use players like that. I think you put a guy like Doubs on, say, the Jaguars, put him next to Brian Thomas Jr. That works pretty well, and that's an interesting combination. You put Jaden Reed on a team like the Steelers, who now have Metcalf and Pickens, who are field stretchers, and you get Reed more of a gadget guy, and that's something really interesting. Or you put Christian Watson on the Chiefs, who goes up against Rashee Rice, and now he is the field stretcher. Like, there's ways to use these guys and convert them into picks, convert them into trades. But the Packers are just being like, oh, you're going to all go play. And it's like watching an NBA team where no one knows who the first option is. And when it comes to crunch time, you need to know who your Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, LeBron James is, who's getting the ball at the last shot. And the Packers don't have that. They do not have a hierarchy. And that, I think, is what Jacobs meant when he said we need a wide receiver 1. Not only do they need a wide receiver 1 talent, they need a wide receiver 1 in attitude so that they can create a wide receiver and like pass catcher hierarchy, because good teams need it.
In our last mock draft, we drafted Walter Nolan to the Packers.
That works.
Need a pass rush for sure.
Yeah.
I do think
there's so many things we could do with the Packers rather than getting a guard and giving him $77 million.
But it's the same thing Tyler asked earlier. Who would you give that money to? Right. It's a weird free agent class.
Yeah. I think I'd have gotten Byron Murphy. I think that would have been good. It was him and Reed as the 2 best corners. So I do like that. From Ryan. Last one I have in the bad. This is more funny than anything, but the Browns trading for Kenny Pickett. I just that's just depressing. Like,
that is pretty bad.
Just what are we doing?
Especially giving him a 5th on top of it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I imagine that the Browns went to Myles Garrett and say, hey, we're going to pay you, and we're going to give you all your money, and we're also going to get you a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And then he wakes up the next day and sees Kenny Pickett is a Brown, and he just hates everything. And by the way, that's one of my bads. Myles Garrett and his contract. Myles Garrett is the best edge rusher and possibly the best defender in the league. He has earned and deserves all $40 million a year he's going to be making. Highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. That said, the Browns are the last team that should have given it to him. Of every team in the NFL, the Browns are the worst team to have given him this contract to. I understand.
It was all about money, dude.
Right. Everything's about money. It's business and sports.
Do you think there was a point in time they genuinely would have, or he genuinely sorry, let me rephrase. Do you think there was a point in time the Browns would have traded him?
I think there's a point
during the period where he was like, I'm not accepting an offer, trade me.
If you're smart enough, there should be an offer and a trade value for every player on your team. You should be like, this is the price where if someone offers it to me, I'm going to say yes. So I think, the Browns were willing to trade him, but I think that they were always looking to keep him because of who he represents. He is right now the only piece of hope in this city of Cleveland that's not named the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are killing it right now. Garrett was the only thing good on this team. That's it. It's just him. He's the one on tickets. He's the one on season ticket holders. He's the one you put on sweatshirts. He's the jersey that you see walking around, because you don't want to add another name to that growing list of names on the back of that one jersey. You guys know the one I'm talking about? Where they have
all the Browns quarterbacks. Which, speaking of Browns quarterbacks, Kenny Pickett, but do we think that they told him they were going to draft a quarterback and that's why he's back in?
I think it's just money. I think it was purely he is now $8.5 million more than Max Crosby. He's the highest paid non-quarterback in the league, or was until Jamar Chase, I think.
Yeah, because part of me wonders, there's been a ton of smoke just around the Browns taking Shedeur, mostly because most people think that the Titans will take Ward. And so I wonder if that's their selling point is, we'll give you $40 million a year, a lot of money, but also we do have some type of plan.
Well, funny you mentioned that, because I think in this offseason, multiple players have come out, like Denzel Ward, Jerry Jeudy, Myles Garrett, have all said they're a quarterback away from competing. Personally, I don't believe that.
It's an absolute lie.
I'm all for believing in fallacies. Anyways,
we know. Donovan Jackson.
It will be interesting to see who they do take now, because I think you're right, Tyler. You hit the nail on the head. Was that the selling point? Saying, hey, if you sign for this amount of money, we'll go out and draft a quarterback this year just to please you. I think that's bad business. I think they should have traded that, trade Myles Garrett away and use that to build. I mean, you already have a historically bad contract on the books with Deshaun Watson. Everyone laughed at you when you gave a fully guaranteed contract, and we still haven't seen anything come close to that.
It's still in conversation for the worst transaction in the history of sports.
Exactly.
Oh, this is a Luka trade, boys.
Ooh,
that's Quentin Grimes.
I think that this is where I think the Watson trade.
Ryan, that's $1.
I think Watson trade is worse. I was gonna say we're blowing past that.
Dude is like averaging 35.
Yeah,
with everybody out,
he can chuck shots because Philly's
like
the worst
Sixers
team to watch in the league. No, I actually do like Grimes, former 5-star. Got some potential there.
You and Jim Harbaugh, loving those 5 stars.
Dude, it can work out sometimes. I think the Deshaun Watson deal is worse because at least you got back Anthony Davis, who is a top 10 player in the NBA at this point. And I know he's injured, but like he is, when healthy, a top 10 player, and you got some draft picks. Max Christie's a role player. Right. And you just got Deshaun Watson for the Browns.
And Deshaun Watson very quickly was outed legally.
Yep.
I think that the Garrett contract is, again, what he deserves and what he has earned throughout his career as clearly a Hall of Famer. But by giving it to him, the Browns are saddling themselves with a player who could quickly not be worth that kind of money due to age and edge rushers falling off a cliff. And he also is the only player on this team. And I understand you got to get butts and seats. You got to sell tickets. You got to have somebody on the banners hanging outside the stadium. But right now, Garrett is just... he doesn't fit. The team needs to completely blow it up and restart, and a really easy way to blow it up and restart is by trading your superstar. They could have gotten an absolute haul for Myles Garrett, but they didn't. And it's the same thing that Joe Shane said, or not Joe Shane, Mara, I think, is the owner of the Giants. He didn't say on Hard Knocks offseason, he didn't say Saquon is our best player. He said Saquon is our most popular player. Garrett is the Browns' most popular player. That's why they wouldn't let him leave, right? It's not that he was their best player. It's not that he fits their timeline. It's that they are pandering to the fans. And that is not the way you run an organization. Not for longevity. Trying to be competitive is the downfall of too many NFL franchises.
Was that one of your uglies?
That was one of my bads. That was my last bad.
Oh, okay.
So we're now into ugly, correct?
Yeah, I think we are. Ryan, unless you have any more bads?
Nope, that was it.
All right. So I have already used up one of my uglies. Well, Ryan did when he talked about Daniel Jones, because I just thought that was icky. So one of y'all got to start. Who wants to go next?
Ryan, you got it.
All right. We kind of already hinted at this, but DK Metcalf to the Steelers was definitely eye-catching. And Well, many reasons. Everyone was talking about who's going to get number 14, but DK was like, all right, I'll change numbers. So we've already known that answer. But Steelers traded the number 52 overall pick and gave him a 4-year extension on top of the year that he's on right now. So he's under contract for 5 years. Uh, guys, I just cannot give a wide receiver that kind of money without knowing my quarterback situation. I'm all for having some all-star wide receivers. I don't think DK is that. And not knowing the quarterback situation just makes it even worse. Now, I personally think that they will draft a quarterback within the first 2 rounds of this year because we still don't have an answer from Aaron Rodgers.
He's going to be a Steeler, right?
I would think so because the Giants have the number 3 overall pick, and I don't think that they're going to want Aaron Rodgers anywhere near their draft prospects. But it was just funny because I sent you guys the fact that Jalen Milroe is eating dinner with Mike Tomlin and the Steelers ownership. So Jalen Milroe to the Steelers? We don't know. I personally am not.
They need another running back, and now she's out of the picture.
I'm not terribly low on Milroe. I don't think he's going to be a above average starter, but I think, again, it'll be all right. Even bigger headline. Why are you getting dinner with Jalen Milroe and moving on from Justin Fields? That is a question I want to know personally. But DK to the Steelers, kind of a question mark for me. I'm like, all right, well, what are you going to do with that? A whole lot of nothing, because the Ravens are going to beat you out every single year. So what are you doing?
I think I agree with everything you said, and I also think there's one more piece you forgot to mention. What is DK Metcalf known for? Running down the field, being big and strong, catching the ball like really well, and just being fast. I feel like that skill set is redundant with
It doesn't
George Pickens.
complement, yeah.
No, it doesn't. And if you're going to bring in, you have a clear wide receiver in George Pickens, who's very talented, one of the best catchers of the football in the league right now. Just pure hands, fantastic. Hops, able to high point the ball, bring it down, one of the best. DK Metcalf is a physical freak, but he doesn't play like an A.J. Brown where he's a physical freak in a slant route. He's a physical freak in being big and strong at the catch point and running quickly down the field.
Yep.
It's a very similar skill set to what we see in Pickens. If you're going to give a guy this kind of money, make sure it doesn't be redundant and build your wide receiver room like a basketball offensive line, or not a basketball lineup, a 1 through 5. It doesn't make sense. I don't get it.
Are they moving off of Pickens?
That's the big question, right? Because you could get a good pick for him, probably a second, right? Because he's young and he's talented. Or do you just want DK Metcalf and George Pickens to not stop playing receiver and start being boxers? There's that option as well, because I'm sure they'll say yes.
Yeah. I just wonder, because I know Pickens is not known as a guy who's great in the locker room. And you, like you said, you got someone whose skill set is pretty close to what he is. So
it feels weird. The whole Steelers situation feels so strange. I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah, which brings me into my ugly of any team waiting on Aaron Rodgers, which includes the Pittsburgh Steelers, that includes the New York Giants, might even include the Minnesota Vikings from some different reports that are out there.
It feels like they're going with McCarthy, which is the right move.
I mean, I want them to. There's just been some reporting recently that they're talking to Rodgers or might want Rodgers. I don't really understand why, unless McCarthy had some injury setback maybe that we don't know about. But anyway, just any team waiting on Aaron Rodgers right now. I feel like I don't really need to go into this too deeply. You're not in a good place if your team is waiting for Aaron Rodgers and waiting for him to get the headlines, to continue to do what he wants to do, which is get all the headlines, get all the social media clicks, be known, be in the spotlight.
Instead he leaked a picture of him on a beach looking. It looked like he was just pondering where to go on the beach. Like, he leaked that. There's no way he didn't. He told somebody to take that.
Yeah, and Cameron Hayward's coming out saying, dude, we don't need another darkness retreat. Like, just make a decision. Like, you're either a Pittsburgh Steeler or you're not. So it's already some bad blood in that locker room.
And that's because Aaron Rodgers is not super concerned with football right now. And he can say, oh, no, I'm able to focus on both. I really do want to be a good player and mentor people, blah, blah, blah. You made a Netflix show. You're on Pat McAfee every Tuesday. You're doing social media as much as we possibly can. you are not super focused on football right now, and you are way too old to not be locked in mentally on the game of football. And so I can already see it happening. Somebody is going to sign him, say it's the Steelers, and people are going to jersey swap with him, Pickens, and DK, say who's stopping this offense.
Everybody.
And it's not going to work. Same thing for the Giants. People are going to be super psyched about Malik Neighbors, and he'll probably still put up stats. They will be a bad team.
I think Mike Tomlin's on the hot seat, but
I agree.
that might be my hot take of the evening.
Mine was that Myles Garrett is not worth his contract, but whatever. No, I think while we're on the topic of the Jets and Rodgers and quarterbacks, Justin Fields is one of my uglies. Justin Fields, 2 years, $40 million, in the ballpark of what he has earned throughout his career. That said, it's the most Jetsy move I've ever seen. You're going nowhere. You're kind of competitive. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with Justin Fields. And when he fails, we're all going to be like, yeah, we saw this coming. When he succeeds, we're going to be like, yeah, we saw this coming. It was great. He's shown flashes. There are going to be flashes of greatness. There are going to be absolute pits of despair. This is going to be the most up and down Jets season we've ever seen from a quarterback. And either Fields is going to completely overwhelm us with bad or completely underwhelm us with mid. Either way, this move is just not moving the needle for me. Fields is not good enough to bring the Jets out of where Rodgers left them, and this is a rudderless move from a rudderless franchise. They are going nowhere. This is a Saints move by the Jets. You're going nowhere.
It's funny to see it come like full circle.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
We saw a transition from Sam Darnold to Zach Wilson to Aaron Rodgers, now to Justin Fields. And I feel bad for Jets fans. I mean, there's 32 teams in the league. They're probably going to have to go another 31 years without a Super Bowl ring. It's just the odds are against them. And it's hard because quarterback is the most valuable position in this league. And without a quarterback, your team is doomed to exist. And I mean, the money says itself. What was it, 2 years, $40 million? Yeah, Garrett Wilson might have a great year in fantasy. Justin Fields might have a better than last year in fantasy, but we're not talking about him making the Pro Bowl or anything. It's still Justin Fields.
Yeah, he's a young, trying to home run swing bridge quarterback. I think they're probably going to try and get somebody in this next draft. It would be my guess, but it's a weird move right now, and you are taking a swing hoping that maybe he puts it together on his third team, but that really doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. And it's like, speaking of another guy trying to put it together on his third team, Sam Darnold got 3 years, $100.5 million, which, by the way, is just $500,000 more than Baker Mayfield. That is exactly to the letter what Baker Mayfield got adjusted for inflation. The Seahawks are trying to recreate the Bucs, and what the Bucs did by bringing in two talented receivers and a Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold-esque quarterback in that same age for that same money. The question is, do we think it'll work? That's my third ugly. Is the Seahawks took something that kind of was okay in Geno Smith, and I think he overachieved, and now they're bringing in Sam Darnold, a guy who is there's still question marks. He was on a really good team in Minnesota last year.
I had the Seahawks as an ugly as well, and as we've talked about, they're completely resetting. I'm kind of confused why, though. They were 6-2 in their last 8 going down the stretch. I thought they were really improving and putting it together. And you look at their division, the Rams are good, but Stafford's aging, and right now they don't have a quarterback succession plan. The 49ers are in limbo. We talked about that. The Cardinals are trying to ascend, but by no means are they some unbeatable team. So I thought they were ascending to be the dark horse breakout candidate in their division. And so when I look at all their moves, individually, I don't mind them. You got good compensation for Geno for his age and the extension he's going to need. You got good compensation for DK, same thing, for his skill and then the extension he was going to give. It's a fair contract for Darnold. But when you pair it all together, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. Again, when you got a new coach and you saw these immediate results of the back end of the season looking really good, talk about draft implications. I still do think they go offensive line, especially interior offensive line. I do like at least Charles Cross at tackle. Their other one, I forget his name, but he was okay. He was about mid-level in grading, the right tackle they have. But their interior O-line was abysmal, especially their left guard. So,
was it Lucas?
You might be
No.
right. I don't remember. but they also have some defensive holes. So I think they're going to try and protect Darnold, is my guess, just to give him the best situation possible. So in that range, in our big board, we have Gray Zabel, Donovan Jackson, Tyler Booker, and Kelvin Banks, all guys that we have listed at guard that could be drafted at pick 18 and not be a super reach. I think Walter Nolan could also be fun if they want to go defensive line and stack with Byron Murphy.
Abraham Lucas was the other
Abraham
guy.
Lucas. Okay, perfect. Yep. Because, again, Cross at left tackle was really good. Like what he did, pretty much everyone else could stand to be replaced. And so that's how I look at this for the draft effects that this will have. But it just, I put it in ugly because, again, when you put it all together, it just seems weird. And again, this might work. They might be able to reset it. Darnold might be as good as he was last year. These are things that definitely could happen. They could continue on that trajectory. It just seems so weird, and I don't really know why you wouldn't just try to ride that trajectory out with what you had.
I think the biggest thing is, from what I've heard from guys more ear to the ground in Seattle, when Mike McDonald came in, he took down a bunch of Pete Carroll's old posters in the media room, and in the locker room, in the just football facilities. And he basically said, this is a clean slate. Carroll's gone, I'm in charge. Which is a power move, but also kind of egotistical, and people were like rubbed the wrong way by it because Carroll's a legend, right? And he was released on seemingly good terms by Seattle. Geno Smith went to his press conference, his farewell press conference, where he cried. Now McDonald is getting rid of any vestige of Carroll that was left in the building. Metcalf, Lockett, Smith, all guys who Carroll brought in, Carroll built up into the players they are now. And I think that this is his way of asserting himself and asserting control over not just the defense, but the offense as well.
Sorry, I was laughing because I found something funny. ESPN doesn't even have left guard as a position on the Seahawks roster. So I might have to send an email about that. But yes, I completely agree with everything you guys said. It's a below average offensive line. It could be constructed a little bit better. But yes, pairing Walter Nolan or someone of that caliber with Leonard Williams would be a great pairing. So
my favorite pick for them is Jackson. If Jackson can fall to them, or they could trade up for him, I think that would work out really well for what they need.
Yeah, Gray Zabel and Donovan Jackson are the two that really did stand out to me as guys that will be interior offensive linemen, in my opinion, in the NFL, and guys that are really solid pass protectors. So
agreed.
I think that would be very good for Darnold, who actually got a lot better against pressure last year, but it's still not this amazing strength that he has.
I'm excited to see what he does outside of that Minnesota offense that he was last year, and now with Clint Kubiak, who he worked with in San Francisco. I mean, I'm curious to see it. It's something I will be watching, but is it going to be a train wreck that crashes and burns, or is it going to be a beautiful symphony? We'll see. Probably somewhere in the middle, because nothing is as good as or as bad as it seems.
So one of my storylines I'm also still watching is, sorry, Cowboy fans, Jerry Jones is still your owner and general manager. And I don't mean that in any polite manner. I mean that with the most disrespect possible. So again, I think we briefly talked about it, how Jerry Jones brings in free agents on a need by need basis, like does not sign them to lucrative contracts in the slightest.
Right. They have not signed a free agent to more than $10 million since 2015.
Yeah. So we saw the Cowboys just collapse this season, and people will be like, oh, well, Cooper Rush was the quarterback. So what? You still claim to have one of the best teams in the league. Prove it. Miles Sanders, Javonte Williams. Are either of those running backs going to be your starting running backs? I sure hope not. I wouldn't make him a starting running back. Paris Campbell. Oh, you said you didn't have a wide receiver too next to what's his name? CeeDee Lamb. Is Paris Campbell going to be your wide receiver too? He was wide receiver 4 on the Eagles. So I'll give you that one. Edge, Dante Fowler. No, that is not a dollar in the jar. Dante Fowler, 1 year, $8 million deal. Sure, he had 10.5 sacks last season, but only one of them was against the Eagles. Not a dollar in the jar. We're talking about the Cowboys.
I'm having so much fun with
just
this.
Can't stop. Cannot stop.
No, I can't.
Eagles.
Peyton Turner, a former first-round pick, 1 year, $3 million deal. again, has amassed to nothing.
He
You
played football
franchise
against the
tag
Philadelphia Eagles.
your star D tackle for 4 years, $80 million.
Okay, in their defense, that's a good move. I like Odigizua. I think that was just
I'm
a
fine
good
with
move by
it.
them.
That was the one good move on this list, next to Solomon Thomas, who, if you play him in the correct position, can be good. We saw him with the 49ers and with the Jets be played out of position. That is my one note on Solomon Thomas, is he can be good if you play him at the correct position. Kenneth Murray Jr. also has has not played well. I'll say that. Khair Elam, who we talked about at the end of the season when the Bills tragically lost. He was traded for a 6th round pick in exchange for a 5th rounder and a 2026 7th rounder. CJ Goodwin, don't even know who you are. Marquise Bell, I'm pretty sure I know who you are, but I think you're also irrelevant. And then you sign a long snapper, a punter, and Kevontae Turpin re-signed. So
I like the Turpin re-signing.
I like Turpin too. I actually have him on my dynasty bench, but he's like wide receiver 8. So guys, what are we doing here? We have no money to sign good players. Micah Parsons is going to need a contract extension. Did CD Lamb already re-sign a? Okay, so he's locked up. Did Dak sign?
Yes.
That was a really big storyline in last offseason. Were you
Dude,
alive?
I couldn't care less about the Cowboys right now, except for right now. So you got to pay Micah Parsons.
Rumors are currently coming out about Micah Parsons and how they're nowhere near a deal, by the way, like just within the last hour.
Yeah, so what is happening here? If you have any hope of contending with anyone in the NFC East, I'll put it at that. You're number 3. And you will continue to be number 3 until you get some of these bad contracts off the books.
I will say this. At least the Giants have a direction. Malik Neighbors and their young talent offers them a direction, and that is go young, build slowly. The Cowboys are, like I said about the Jets, like I said about the Saints, rudderless.
I was about to be like, wait, Zach Martin retired and you didn't sign a single lineman. I skipped one. Robert Jones, 1 year, $4.75 million. So who is playing on this team beyond Dak, CD, and Micah?
Kevontae Turpin, like we said.
In 02.
Javonte Williams, RB1. Fantasy football. Come on, you got to draft Javonte. Sleeper
I don't know
pick.
what to do with this team. I'm going to give you another hot take. You ready? If CD Lamb or Dak Prescott goes down, I will even tweet this out so you guys can fact check me at the end of the season. If CD Lamb or Dak Prescott out for the season or like goes down early in the season, the Giants will finish with a better record than the Cowboys. I think their roster is so poorly constructed.
The Giants, whose only quarterback on the roster is Tommy DeVito.
Freaking better than what they got right now. I mean, the Cowboys don't even have Cooper Rush anymore. He went to the Ravens.
I'm having.
Well, you're worried
fun.
about
That brings me to my 3rd storyline I'm watching.
The ugly. This is your last ugly.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It's not really ugly. Hopkins to the Ravens. The Ravens were my AFC favorites. And it genuinely pains me to see how they went down. But I think that could have, quote unquote, been the missing piece. Granted, you could probably fix the secondary a little bit more. I know that was an issue late into the season. I think Nate Wiggins panned out really well.
Mm-hmm.
Big boy out of Clemson. But
Big boy?
he's fairly large.
I thought he was small. Wasn't he?
Well, he's tall but really skinny. He's like 170.
Yeah,
He's
that was
a
one
big
of my.
boy. He's taller than you, Aaron.
Yeah, a lot of people are taller than me. I'm 5'9". I'm 5'10". Like, yeah, a lot of people are taller than me. But Nate Wiggins, one of the biggest knocks on him was that he was small and skinny. Like, you can't just say big boy because of height.
He beefed up.
Okay.
But, yeah, so putting Hopkins next to Zay Flowers and Bateman. I like it personally. I know people are pushing this narrative like this is where old receivers go to die.
That's exactly what the narrative is because it's
Beckham,
accurate.
Deshaun Jackson.
It's accurate.
Give me another one.
Deontay Johnson.
Yeah. Deontay Johnson was doomed from the start. But
Yes. Yes, he was. It is where old receivers go to die.
it's interesting because I like the Stanley's re-signing, and I don't think they had to do a ton. I think they had the pieces. It's a matter of execution.
I think it's where old receivers go to die, and I'm not going to be surprised when DeAndre Hopkins completely underperforms this season. Tyler,
They just
I
need
think
to
you're
review wide receiver 3. They don't need a ton out of him.
right.
Also, won't be injured. Hopefully, he had the knee injury at the beginning of the season, so I could see him being a solid wide receiver 3.
Tyler, I think you have two uglies left because Ryan and I just took the floor for the last half an hour.
No, you're good. I got the Rodgers one and the Seahawks one. So my last one will be the Laramie Tunsil trade for the Houston Texans. I wrote down, hey, man, can we protect C.J. Stroud, our really good rookie quarterback?
No.
And they said no. This is a stat from Brett Coleman on Twitter. Tunsil was second in pressure rate allowed by tackles over the past 2 seasons. He was still playing really, really good. Did he have some laughs and people could tweet out clips because of false start penalties? Yes. He was still a really good tackle. It was 19. I think it was 9.
19.
Those are two very different numbers.
Hold on, if Ryan, if you want to look that up for me, but he was still a really good tackle. This is what they got back. So they got a 2026 second, 2025 third, and 2025 seventh, but they sent away a 25 fourth. So when you break it down, they got a second, a seventh, and then moved up about 20-ish picks.
Yeah, Tyler, it was 19.
19.
19. Jeez, man, that is ridiculous.
Dead last, 141st out of 104.
That's a lot of false starts. But
Hold up. 19 penalties, 12 of them false starts.
Okay, I was gonna say I didn't think they were all false starts. I was like, whoa, that's a lot. A lot of penalties though.
Yes, 12 false starts, 3 illegal formations, 2 holding, and
Illegal formation.
1 ineligible man downfield, and to top it off, an unnecessary roughness.
There we go.
So that's 19, 12 of which happened in the first 4 weeks of the season, 6 of which in week 3. That's one way to look at it.
Spin zone, he fixed it.
Isn't this in your uglies?
Yes, but it's for the Texans because again, even with the penalties, this was still a really good player. Again, pressure rate allowed stat. So to go back over the picks, they got a 2026 second, 2025 third, and a 2025 seventh, but sent out a 2025 fourth. So when you look at what they actually got when you break it down, they got a second, a seventh, and then moved up about 20 picks in going from the fourth to the third. That's not a lot for a guy who's a really good tackle, and they didn't replace him at all in free agency. They traded away Kenyon Green, who was a bad player. You know what they got? This was a funny stat. This was from Nate Tice as well. They traded him away to the Philadelphia Eagles for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. I almost put that in my good for the Texans, actually. I like that for them. But
we should discuss that before we get out of here. But yeah, keep going.
They traded away Kenyon Green, who was the worst in pressure rate allowed by guards, and then signed somebody, I forget, from the Vikings. I forget his name, but he was second.
Ed Ingram?
Yes, Ingram. He was the second most in pressure rate allowed by guards. They are not getting a better offensive line. In fact, the offensive line got a lot worse, which was the biggest problem. Everybody that's watching or just like box score watching is going, hey, why did Stroud play like pretty much the same statistically? Didn't he get Stephon Diggs and shouldn't he ascend in the second year? And it's like, maybe if he wasn't getting absolutely destroyed back in the pocket, there were multiple games where his pressure rate or the percentage of plays he was pressured on was 50% or more. Like that is, you can't function as a team with that.
In our mock draft 2.0, we had the Texans taking Kelvin Banks Jr.
I stand by it.
Yeah, dude, take any offensive lineman. You could draft at this point any position on the offensive line, and I'd be fine with it. They need to figure that out.
Similar to the Mike McDonald Seattle conversation we were having, this feels like the Texans are trying to reset their offensive line. It was terrible. We all acknowledge it. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass protect. It was awful. So this is them trying. I understand what they're trying to do. In the action is resetting, and they reset by trading away and releasing just about every piece on their offensive line to find a more cohesive unit, not just pieces. Right? They're trying to recreate in the aggregate like it's freaking Moneyball. That said, I don't know if that's going to work. I see what they're trying to do, and I can understand the value of it, but I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's going to be successful. And so you're just going to end there with a worse offensive line and be worse off from where you left off. Kenyon Green to the Eagles is interesting. I think that basically Jeff Stoutland said, yeah, I can fix him. And that's the entire conversation about Kenyon Green. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson going to the Texans. I do like it for the Texans. It's a leader in the locker room. Feels like a very D'Amico Ryans guy, right? A guy that he's going to love. And the Eagles save money. That's just an interesting move. It felt like, at least my side of Twitter was aflame with people being like, why the heck did they trade one of their leaders? And Darius Slay has beef with CJ now. Like, what is going on with that? I don't entirely understand what's happening. Am I the only one who feels like there's something missing?
I think from what I understand, he got the boot because of how many touchdowns he allowed. And it was in the double digits. And defense was not happy. He didn't have a great contract that the Eagles liked. And he got the boot as well.
More than that, I think you might be right, but the other theories I heard was that the Eagles are going to have to pay a pretty penny for a lot of their upcoming contracts. Clearly, Quinion, Cooper, Jordan Davis is going to be an interesting conversation, but Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, like, they're going to have to shovel out money. And so you have to decide what position are we going to cheap out on. And I think they said safety too, strong safety was the position that they're okay with going with the scrubs in the Stars and Scrubs model. So that's why they probably released CJ when he was getting paid next season a lot of money and a lot of cash, not just cap. And they're trying to save money in the future for their young players. Well, you might be right, but it just feels, I don't know, it feels like a move. I just didn't see it coming. And it feels like a good move for the Texans where the Eagles did not get much better and are just having to money save. It's an interesting one.
Yeah, so I actually pulled up percentage of at least partially responsible for pressures allowed on their quarterback. So this is for CJ Stroud. Left tackle, 12.1%. So that was Tunsil. Pretty good in pass pro. Left guard was 22.5. So significant increase at the left guard position. 12.1.
He
I
played
believe
left,
it was
right?
left guard. Yeah.
Yeah.
12.1% at the center spot. So the exact same as Tunsil. 19.5 at right guard and 22.1 also at right tackle.
That's
so
bad.
pretty much very similar percentages at the left guard, right guard, and right tackle. So again, like Tyler said, draft an offensive lineman, you're pretty safe. Put him somewhere on the offensive line, and you're looking good. But that leads me to believe, like, are we really going to draft 2 offensive linemen, first and second round? It's a real possibility because you traded away Tunsil now.
And Green, and then cut their other guard, who I'm blanking on his. I think it was Rodney something. I'm forgetting his name now. But they have gotten rid of 3 offensive linemen.
So yeah, Texans crazy. Eagles are going to try and fix like all of their offensive linemen, and Texans don't have an offensive line at this point. That has been the good, the bad, and the ugly from free agency. We still don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. Micah Parsons is demanding a contract. The NFL never sleeps, and neither do we, because it's at this point 11 o'clock Eastern. Thank you all for listening. We will be back very quickly to break down another position. We're actually going to figure that out post-show and figure out what's next. But we'll be back. Thank you all for listening. Mind the gap on your way out.